Ladies and gents, hello and welcome. Today we're going to be testing out the charging characteristics of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Not only how it receives power, but also how it's able to output power to other devices. I did a first look hands-on video with this device not too long ago, and I noticed some interesting things about its charging behavior, and I wanted to do a separate video on the topic. So I've got a bunch of different stuff. I've got so many cables here and lots of different devices that we're going to be charging, including this iPod Classic over here on the right side. We're going to be looking at a lot of the different numbers. I've got this little cool tool that shows how much power is being drawn by different devices. And we're going to check out some of the numbers of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So first things first, I want to show you guys a setup here. So I've got a 140 watt power adapter. You can see right there. This is the one that comes with Apple's MacBook models, the 14 and 16 inch MacBook Pro models. And I've got a 240 watt Apple braided USB-C cable. And this should give us more than enough power to test the max charging speed of our iPhone 17 Pro Max here. And to show you guys what I've done inside of battery settings, I have turned off all of the protective battery features. So we're at 100% capacity, 0 cycles. If we go into charging, we're going to go ahead and max that out to 100%. We turned off, I'm going to turn off optimized battery charging. We turned off clean energy charging. If we go into power mode, I've got adaptive power turned off, low power is turned off. We're giving this thing the full treatment. There is no protective features on the battery here, at least nothing that I can control. What we're going to do, we're going to plug in the USB-C cable into my little dongle thing here that reads the numbers, and then we're going to connect this to the iPhone and see what happens. All right, so we are charging, and we're going to get a number down here on the bottom. We get the volts, the amps, and then the watts. The wattage there is the number that most of you are probably familiar with. This is what Apple uses when they talk about charging devices, and it's kind of the common unit for measuring electricity, at least on mobile devices like cell phones. So in typical fashion, the iPhone starts off charging slow, and that number kind of works its way higher and higher until it reaches a maximum speed. Now that speed is based on a couple things. It's based on the temperature of the iPhone. It's obviously based on what you've got it connected to, as well as the battery percentage, and of course the different power management features that you have enabled. But we're at 65%, so I think we should be able to get a pretty high number in terms of charging. Once you reach 80, the iPhone slows down. So it seems like we got up to about 27 there, and it's holding rather steady at a little over 26. If we turn off the display, that number is going to adjust just a little bit. You can see it jump around there and seems to find its happy place there, really close to 26 watts. And if we turn the display back on, that number is going to jump up just a little bit as the iPhone pulls additional power for the device itself on top of charging the battery. So it seems like right now we're maxing out at about 27 watts with a couple of those watts going towards the actual device's power state at the moment. Now, something that's interesting, and I've never actually done a video on this, I believe iPhones charge slower when they're turned off. We're going to find out here in just a moment. This was something I noticed several years ago with some older iPhones. I don't know if that's still the case on these newer devices. It looks like, okay, so the charging did reset there as the iPhone completely turned off. Let's see what happens here. What wattage are we going to get with the iPhone being completely powered off? I'm going to set that there and speed up until we reach a steady value. So it looks like we got pretty much the same number. So my prior statement appears to be false, at least on the 17 Pro Max. This thing charges just as quickly, whether it is turned on or turned off. If we go ahead and power it back on, it is going to cycle through there, and the power is going to drop down to 0 as the phone comes on. And then slowly it's going to work its way back up as the device boots up. So we'll go ahead and unplug that and move on to our next test, which is going to be Magsafe. So in my pile of cables here, let's holding on to an Apple Watch cable there. Here we're going to see how fast this thing charges over Magsafe, which Apple advertised should be significantly faster than previous generations. So I think Apple said that with a 30 watt or higher power adapter, you should be able to get maximum speeds there on Magsafe. So 140 watts should be able to do the trick for us. Now we're going to have to plug this in over here because I cannot connect this. You know, we can't go like this anymore. So I've got to do that. And then we're going to plug this in to this end of Magsafe. Then we're going to go into the power adapter there. And we'll flip this upside down right there. And the iPhone is now charging, you can see. And let's see how high of a wattage number we can get here through Magsafe. So it looks like we are drawing, okay, it jumped up there a little bit. We're close to 10 watts of power through the Magsafe cable. So I am not sure what the deal is there. This should be pulling, I would say, close to 30 watts if that's what Apple is advertising is needed to fast charge through Magsafe. But we are not getting even over 10 watts, even with the display turned on. And I don't know if you guys saw on the screen here, it is quoting 12 minutes to reach 80%, and it's currently at 66. I don't think 10 watts of power for the next, oh, it just dropped down. Now it's saying 24 minutes. That might be a little more accurate. I don't even know if 13% over 27. Okay, so that number is changing pretty drastically. Not sure what to believe there, but this is definitely not pulling anywhere close to 30 watts of power, which is what Apple is advertising for Magsafe on this device. So that is a little disappointing. Time will tell. Maybe that's a problem with my unit, or maybe there's a software update needed for that. Hard to say. Okay, so that is going to conclude our charging of the iPhone. Okay, so moving on from Magsafe, at least the cable, I do have a Magsafe battery pack, which we can go ahead and slap on there. That's going to charge the device. And this actually looks pretty clean on the back of the iPhone. And definitely with my silver model here, it kind of fades in. If you're looking at it like this, you might not even notice right away that there's a battery pack on it. However, you turn it to the side, obviously it's pretty big and bulky. But here we go. This is with, I don't even know how much this charged. I think it's 7.5 watts that this charges the iPhone. We no longer get that estimate up there in the corner in terms of how long it's going to take to charge. But I think nobody's surprised that the Magsafe battery pack does work here on the 17 Pro Max. This is not the new one that comes with the iPhone Air, or that is made for the iPhone Air. This is the older one. I don't even know when this came out, but it's still got the lightning connector there. So this thing has been around for quite some time. Okay, now I want to talk about charging other devices with this iPhone. So what we're going to do there, I've got an iPod Classic, I've got an Apple Watch here, and I've got an iPhone XS Max that we are all going to charge using the 17 Pro Max. So let's start with the Apple Watch. This is actually pretty cool. It's a ceramic Apple Watch Series 5. It is a very nice piece that I've got. It is completely dead because I don't use it enough. And we're going to charge it with the iPhone 17 Pro Max. And we're going to see how fast it is able to charge the Apple Watch. Now, a bit of a side note, I want to talk about the Apple Watch charging cables because I feel like maybe not a lot of people know this. So the new cables, let me get them untangled. The recent Apple Watch charging cables, obviously they're USB-C, but there are some that are fast charge capable and some that are not. The only way to tell them apart is actually this connection here. You'll notice that the one on my left has no little lip or whatever it's called there, and this one does. So if we hold them side by side, you can see there is a difference there in the cable. Now, this model on the left is capable of fast charging Apple Watches. This one is not. It is pretty deceiving because they look almost identical. They do actually have differences here on the end of the part that charges the watch. I don't know if that's reliable because I think this version here, which is metal, came with some of the fancier Apple Watch models, while the plastic one comes with the standard watch or even the Watch SE. So I wouldn't go off this end, but you can look at the USB-C end, and if it's got this little lip on it, this thing is not capable of fast charging. You want the one that is completely flush with the connector there. So that's a little side note. So obviously we're going to use the one that's capable of fast charging, and we are going to connect it to our adapter. We're going to plug that into the iPhone there, and then we're going to connect it to our Apple Watch. And you can see that it is charging, and we are getting about 1.5 watts of power going from the iPhone to the Apple Watch. And that number is staying pretty consistent. I'm going to plug the watch in while we do some of the other devices here, and we're going to see if maybe it's the fact that the watch is dead that it's charging a little slower, or what's going on here. So we're going to disconnect that, and we're actually going to plug the Apple Watch into this big boy, 140 watts. We're going to juice her up real quick there. So I'm going to put that over to the side, and then we'll come back to it here in a minute. Okay, moving on from there, I want to charge this iPhone XS Max. So we've got a USB-C to Lightning cable, plug it into the iPhone there, and then on the XS Max, we'll go ahead and connect it here. And it is charging, as you can see. And if we take a look over here on the little screen, we are getting 4.4 watts. So not even quite 5 watts, which is what you would get from Apple's old original little tiny brick that came with all the iPhones up until the iPhone 11 series. That is pretty much the same speed as charging from the 17 Pro Max on this XS Max, which I believe is capable of charging at close to 20 watts, maybe 18 watts or so from one of those newer USB-C power bricks. But charging the iPhone with another iPhone is going to take a long time. It's going to take hours and hours if you've got low battery on the one device. So not an ideal setup, but in a pinch, you can do it. Now, this would be much better off charging AirPods, for example, or an Apple Watch, because those don't need as much power. I wonder, can you charge the Magsafe? Oh, you can. You can charge the Magsafe power bank from the iPhone. That's going to charge at, let's see what the number gets up to. All right, so 4.2 watts there. Now, I know you guys are all thinking it. Here's what we're going to do. Let me flip this around so we can see the number. We are going to plug the MagSafe pack onto the iPhone. Oh, and it's charging. Look at that. The iPhone is charging itself. We've got ourselves an infinite power hack. Don't tell Apple about this. They might come knocking on my door. But the iPhone is charging the MagSafe battery pack, and the MagSafe battery pack is charging the iPhone. An interesting little cycle there. Okay, so what are we going to test now? How about the iPod Classic? I bet you guys haven't seen one of these in a while. This is the 7th gen iPod Classic. It's 160 gigabyte. It's actually got a physical spinning hard drive inside of it. And in order to charge this, we're going to need a couple of things here. We're going to need our USB to 30-pin cable, but we can't connect to the iPhone that way. We're going to need a dongle. Here we go. Dongle there and into the adapter, and then into the iPod Classic. And it is connected and it is charging. You can see it's charging up there. It actually thinks it's plugged into a computer, which I guess technically it is. And the iPod Classic is pulling about a little under 2.5 watts of power. So for those of you guys who want to know if you can charge your iPod Classic with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, yes, you definitely can. That is an option for you. Okay, now I want to see if we can charge an iPad from the iPhone. And I do know you can charge iPads that have a lightning connector with the iPhone, but my question is, can you charge a USB-C iPad with the iPhone? So we're going to connect our USB-C cable into the iPhone. We're going to take the other end and plug it into the iPad and see which way the power goes. And it seems like they haven't quite figured out what to do. There is voltage, but there's no amps, so that means there's no wattage. And just to make sure this is the same cable, they are plugged into each other. As you can see right there, I think all the cables in the picture there, they are connected. I'm not sure if this is going to work. In theory, the iPad should charge the iPhone because it's got a much bigger battery. It seems like they are not happy about this connection. I wonder if I remove the dongle and plug them in, if something will happen. And no, they are not charging each other. So the iPad Pro, this is actually a 2018 iPad Pro, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max are not being very friendly with each other when they're connected. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but they are not charging each other. Okay, so all we have left is the Apple Watch. I'm still going to give that a little bit of time to charge. It's still giving me low battery. Once this is charged a little bit, I want to connect it back to the iPhone and see if it's able to charge it or not at a faster speed than what we saw before. All right, the Apple Watch has been on the charger for enough to at least turn on, and it's got, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10% battery. And it is only drawing less than a single watt from the brick here. So if we go ahead and disconnect that and then plug it into the iPhone, we can see how much it's drawing now that it's turned on. And that number appears to be about the same. So I don't know what the deal is with charging Apple Watches. I know you can fast charge them if you've got the right power adapter, but it just seems like 0.7 watts or even 1 watt, which is what we were getting over here, is just not enough to fast charge these. But that said, my knowledge of electricity and all that stuff is not as good as it could be, so I'm no expert on that sort of thing. So now it's actually going up a little bit there. It's at 1.65 and it's kind of climbing very slowly. Let's see what happens if we give it just a couple minutes to kind of catch up. We'll see what the maximum is that it will get to. And as I let it sit there, it dropped back down to about 1 watt or so. So I don't know what the deal is with charging the Apple Watch. It's definitely got some interesting aspects there. And okay, now it's jumping back up. So I really have no idea what's going on. I think the moral of the story is that the Apple Watch is not going to pull the full 5 watts or so that the iPhone is capable of outputting, as we saw with charging another iPhone. So I think charging an Apple Watch with this is able to fast charge it, although I'm not 100% sure about that. Either way, it's a cool feature to have, being able to charge your Apple Watch with the iPhone. I think that can be kind of useful in a pinch, but I'm not sure I really understand any scenarios where charging an Apple Watch is more important than your phone's battery if you're not by an outlet or something like that. But one thing you can do is you could charge the iPhone with Magsafe and then plug another device into the USB-C port and kind of charge them simultaneously that way. So that is a bit interesting as well. But that's been a look there at charging the Apple Watch with the iPhone. All right, so there you guys have it. That has been a quick look at the different charging characteristics of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Obviously, you can fast charge this thing if you've got the right power adapter. USB-C is going to be a safe bet there. MagSafe is a bit interesting. I don't know what's going on there, if there's a software update needed or what, but it does not seem to be pulling enough power to fast charge this iPhone. You can also charge your Apple Watch with this thing. You can charge AirPods. You can charge another iPhone. And my favorite of the day, you can charge an iPod Classic. How cool is that? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave me some comments down below if there's any other interesting things that you are curious about for charging the iPhone, or if you've got any fun facts about weird charging quirks like the ones in this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.